Started. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Monday, November 15th regular session of the Lake Jackson City Council. We'll begin tonight with Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Broadus.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Councilman Buell will lead us in an invocation.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, again, we thank you for another day and the opportunity to be here this evening. And as our meeting progresses and we have decisions to be made, please give us the strength, courage, and the wisdom to make those decisions that we feel are in the best interest of our city and our residents. We pray for our first responders. We pray for our men and women in the armed forces overseas and stateside. And we ask that you travel with each and every one of us here when we leave. Get us home safely. Amen.
Amen. Next item on the agenda is visitor comments. So this is an opportunity for anyone that's visiting tonight at City Hall to make comment to City Council on any item that is not on the agenda. And Ms. Buell, you wanted to speak about the museum.
Hi, my name is Susan Buell, and
Need your address, I'm sorry.
Oh, my address is 509 Oak Drive.
Thank you.
Okay. And came here on behalf of the Lake Jackson Historical Association. I just wanted to thank the city and all those responsible for making the restoration of the museum possible. You know, we had extensive water damage that culminated with Hurricane Nicholas. So the Covarrubias has done a very outstanding job of removing wallpaper, dehumidifying, painting, and we just have a few finishing touches. And we are going to open tomorrow after 2 months of being shuttered. We still, the windows still need to be sealed, which is, you know, the big cause of the leaks. And tomorrow is another big day because the phase 2 of the renovation of the Alderney Dow Museum is going to commence. So just wanted to update you on that, and thank you so much for helping us out at the museum.
All right. Thank you for the update. Appreciate it. We have no accommodations. We'll move on to presentations. We have a presentation, we have a 2021 Charter Review Commission presentation by Mr. Will Brooks.
Thank you very much. I'm Will Brooks, 216 Banyan Drive, Lake Jackson, Texas. To the Honorable Mayor and City Council, the members of the 2021 Charter Review Commission, Will Brooks, myself, Chair, Ariel Lara, Secretary Jesse Glatz, Brad Whitehead, and William P. Yenny, are pleased to present our report on the review of the Home Rule Charter of the City of Lake Jackson. As required by the charter in Section 11.14, a committee of Lake Jackson residents will review the Home Rule Charter of our city each odd year. The Charter Review Commission will then submit a report to City Council. This report will include recommendations for any possible changes to the charter. The City Council will review these recommendations and then decide whether to submit such proposed changes to the qualified voters of the city. Now, in the general comments, and we do have a chart, I'm pretty sure each one of you have read this. Hopefully you have. But for record, I must read this as an entirety. As members of the Charter Review Commission, we would like to thank City Council for entrusting us with this important duty. We are humble and thankful for the opportunity. We began meeting on July 19, 2021, and met the first and third Mondays of each month at 4:30 p.m. in the conference room at City Hall. All meetings were posted in accordance with the Opening Meetings Act. We also want to thank Councilmember Rhonda Steph for serving as our council liaison. Mayor Gerald Rosnowski for his frequent visits. Councilmember Vinay Sinha for sharing his thoughts with us. And city staff, Modesto Mundos, city manager, Cheryl Russell, city attorney, Alice Rogers, city secretary, now retired, Sally Verriel, interim city secretary, Sabrina England, public works director, and members of her health inspection team. All the above mentioned individuals provided us with invaluable assistance. Also, we would like to recommend past charter review commissions for their contributions to keeping our city charter up to date and effective. On that note, our city home rule charter is an effective governing document and continues to meet the needs of our city. To that extent, our recommendations are of a more housekeeping nature. Please see the chart below or at your presence of the proposed recommendations and suggested changes. Those changes are listed as such. 1.04, line 6, change and to or will read out as the city or shall contain. This will eliminate the need to provide meters and bounds and a plat. General, change various mentions of councilman or council member to only council member everywhere in the charter. This is for conformity and consistency. 3.06, vacancies. If a vacancy occurs in the mayor's position, the city council will select a member of city council to serve out the term of the mayor. Add clarification on how a vacancy in the mayor's position will be filled. 3.09, line 6, circulation to City of Lake Jackson. Add issue of newspaper and or official city website for the publication. Add clarification that council meetings. 3.11, line 3, no ordinance shall be finally passed until it has been fully read until its caption has been read, to comply with current practice of reading the ordinance caption rather than the full ordinance of each meeting. 3.12, bonds for city officials, review current practice. Determine if current insurance coverage meets the requirement. If not, begin requiring bonds as stated. 4.06, Section D, sanitary code, on this code, eliminate all of Section D. Review Section D and have appropriate health codes adopted by council in the code of ordinances. This will allow council and staff to keep any health and sanitary codes current. They will be able to update without having to amend the charter. 7.10, remove this section. In consultation with the city attorney, it was determined that this section is redundant and not needed. 9.11, remove language and the county clerk of Brazoria County. Add to the end of the paragraph with the following, and are available on the city official website. The county no longer wants to receive the adopted budget. This provides easier access to the public to view the adopted budget. City attorney approved to rewrite. 11.06, line 6, remove the word whatever. We had fun with this. Remove word through editor's note. 11.12B, have editor's note added at the front of the charter to draw attention to this section. In 1988, voters approved changing the charter to read B, any reference in this charter to the masculine includes a feminine. The word he should be read as he/she. This allows an editor's note at the front of the charter after the preamble stating this fact. Conclusion, again, thank you for giving us the opportunity to serve our community. We also would like to thank our fellow members for the respectful, serious manner in which this review was conducted. We now leave these recommendations in the capable hands of our city council, respectively submitted this 15th day of November 2021 by Will Brooks, Chair, Ariel Lara, Secretary, Jesse Glatz, Brad Whitehead, and William P. Yenny.
Thank you very much. Very good. And just I want to lead off just real quick, and is that, again, we appreciate the effort that it takes to be part of the charter review. You yourself have been on the charter review several times, and I appreciate you coming back and helping with us again.
No problem.
And
I can add one thing to that, and that is, as somebody who went to all the meetings, it was very educational and kind of an honor to sit, and we had such a good balance of people who knew the history of the city between yourself and Mr. Yenny, and then we had fresh eyes with Mr. Whitehead, Mr. Glatz, and
Yes.
Miss Laura. So it was a great look at our city.
Glad you said I didn't have to say it. Very well done. Go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say, does anybody on council have any questions about any of the items?
No, again, thank you very much for doing this, because this is a very important task, and we're really glad to entrust them with the folks that we chose to represent on that board. So thank you.
We thought it was important,
Oh, yeah.
and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just real quick, I do have a question, though.
Yes.
On 312, on the bond for city officials, we still have an action on that. Is that that's that the way I read it? Is that we're going to review it and decide if it's,
Yes.
and see if we need to make a change?
We should review all, y'all should review all
Well,
of these.
I understand.
And decide if you want them or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that one is, yeah, I think that's one of the most important.
Yeah, I think that one's a little bit more
That-
direct
That's
on
going to
that.
take, yes,
Yeah,
you're correct.
we're just saying, you guys need to look at this.
Yes.
And now they're like, yeah, y'all.
Y'all take care of it.
Y'all got,
Y'all got it.
yeah, you need to be serious on that.
Oh, yeah.
Not whatever.
No, we understand. Yeah, no whatevers.
That's kind of out of our hands. We
All right.
can only point it out.
Well, thank you very much again.
Thank
Will.
you, appreciate it. Now, if I have my members here, if they have anything to add, I open the floor to them.
Anybody have anything?
And I want,
Wow. Yeah.
I was surprised. It was, I was like when Victor
I
Chevy
want to say this now, dealing with the chart and all the recommendations, all our members had all the input into it. Everybody was making fun and pointing, but Bill did help us structure that, just with a point that Modesto saying we had one page.
Didn't we have to edit some of his stuff out, though?
Well, he made me edit my part out. That's it.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And just for reference, well, there'll be an agenda item now until when we have to make a final agreement on decision on what's going to be, what we'll carry forward. There'll be an agenda item for us to be able to discuss if we need to, until we make a decision on what goes on to the vote.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Next, we're going to have, we have some proclamations to take care of. We have a proclamation for naming November 15, 2021, American Recycle Day. And, huh?
Glenn, are you here for this?
Glenn? You're the lady.
You look just like her.
This is what they told me it was. Sorry, got me up here. Or no, they promised.
With long pants on.
I know.
No shorts.
Long pants.
Got a shirt tucked in, looking sharp.
All right, so what we've got here is a proclamation. It says, I, Gerald Rosnowski, by virtue of authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Lake Jackson, Texas, do hereby proclaim November 15th, 2021 as America Recycle Day in the city of Lake Jackson. Whereas, Keep Lake Jackson Beautiful in Lake Jackson is the largest, best, and most utilized municipal recycling program in Brazoria County. Whereas recycling saves precious energy, conserves valuable natural resources, protects the environment, reduces landfill needs, and has a positive economic impact. Whereas waste reduction and the purchase of recycled content products are critically important elements of an environmentally responsible waste management program. Whereas America Recycles Day is a national promotion to help raise awareness about recycling and buying recycled products. Whereas the City of Lake Jackson encourages residents to continue to recycle weekly through the curbside pickup, and also encourages Lake Jackson residents that are not recycling to begin recycling now. Now, therefore, we, the mayor and the city council of the City of Lake Jackson, do hereby proclaim November 15, 2021 as America Recycles Day in the City of Lake Jackson. Thank you. Sure. Turn it. Oh. Wow. There.
That's why I had to move it. I thought you said,
You're
don't
being
stand behind
don't
the
stand
podium,
behind the
I can't see it.
Whatever.
So how long have you been on People of Jackson Beautiful Committee, just by chance? Hundreds of years?
Long time.
Long time? Well, appreciate it.
Oh, well, we enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
Modesto gets my letters. I hope he answered my last one.
I did.
You did?
Sure.
You sent me an email this morning, correct?
Yes, I did.
I said your response. Yes, sir.
5 o'clock.
Thank you for bringing it. Oh, 5 o'clock. No, I have not responded.
All right. Laura Marie. Next item is a proclamation. Proclamation I, Gerald Rosnowski, by the authority vested in me as the mayor of the City of Lake Jackson, Texas, do hereby proclaim November 2021 as Festival Lights Month in the City of Lake Jackson, and urge each citizen to join us this month in celebrating our 31st annual Festival Lights. Whereas we come to celebrate together as family, friends, and neighbors in the spirit of this special season, the 31st annual Festival Lights, where you will enter a world of holiday magic as thousands of festive lights create a winter wonderland for all to see. I wonder if you wrote that. Sounds good. Whereas November 20th, the city's downtown area will be filled with the holiday spirit as people enjoy the entertainment and food planned for the entire family. And whereas the highlight of the festival will be on the evening of the 20th as people watch with faces aglow the parade with fabulous displays of lighted floats and holiday cheer. That sounds like Santa Claus. This holiday processional will include area businesses, organizations, and school groups with childhood favorites, Old Saint Nick, in which he will make the first official visit of the season. Now therefore, we, the mayor and City of Lake Jackson, and the City Council of the City of Lake Jackson, do hereby proclaim the month of November 21st as Festival Lights Month in the City of Lake Jackson. Thank you. Go ahead and talk real quick about the.
Festival of Lights, okay, so we're gonna have the very first mayor's tree lighting at 6 o'clock on Friday, so we want everyone to come to that, and to keep coming back every year because the tree will grow.
And where's this tree located?
It's a civic center.
So that's, okay.
Yeah, and with the pajama jam,
I won't
which,
be there.
you're not gonna go to the pajama jam? Okay, well, it's, okay. And we got the pajama jam after that, and so we'll have dancing, so bring your pajamas and dance around. And then, of course, the next day is the big event, and the Festival of Lights parade will be Parade of Lights at 7 o'clock that evening. It'll go down Circle Way. Assistant Chief Cy Bottom has brought in something a little bit new, and hopefully, if everything goes okay today, we will not only have the ability for the residents to sit in lawn chairs down median Circle Way. They'll also have an overflow parking at the rec center. And,
Bus show.
yes, and then we bust back and forth for that. The hope for that is to not just make it safer, but to also increase the capacity of, for
The
future events for the parade, yes. And I don't know why I'm here, I just got
you're on the committee.
I designed the poster. That's
Yeah, that's good.
really
That's
all
all
I
that's
did.
happening.
Everybody else out here did all the work.
Let's grab a picture real quick. And we were concerned about not having a carnival, but
Right.
we will have a carnival.
We will have a carnival. Mallory pulled that out. She made it happen. Apparently carnies are in short supply right now. But she found one, and it actually, if you go out to, in front of the Civic Center right now, you can see it, you can see them kind of
They're starting.
pulling in. Mhm.
Bringing in.
Yes, you get all the times and everything on the website.
Great. Thank you.
Make sure she posts this.
Oh, I know. She's so
All right, the next item is declaration of conflict of interest. This is where council has the opportunity to declare any conflict of interest on any item on the regular agenda. Do we have any declarations to make? Huh? All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have consent agenda is item A. Item 1 is approve the minutes of November 1, 2021. And item 2 is accept boards and commission minutes for Charter Review Commission, Planning Commission, and Traffic Commission. Do I have a motion to, well, first question is, do we have any item that council would like to remove for further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
Move for approval, items 1 and 2.
Okay, have a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, we'll move on to regular agenda. Item 1 is consider and approve an ordinance authorizing the issuance of City of Lake Jackson, Texas Limited Tax Bond Series 2021, entering into a paying agent registrar agreement and approving all other matters related thereto. First and final reading. So before we read the overview or of the ordinance, we need to suspend the rules, right? First and second, because we're doing first and second.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules for this item.
Okay, we have a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Move First and second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So you want to give us, read the overview for the ordinance?
Do you want me to do the overview first before reading?
Sure, that's fine.
You want me to go ahead? Okay, Mayor and Council, tonight we are selling the first issue out. That'll be one of 3 issues over the next 3 or next 5 years. This is the bonds that were approved back in May by the voters. Tonight, Joe Morrow with Hilltop Securities will present the bids that he received at noon, or around noon today on these bonds, and we got a very good interest rate. Also, Dan Martinez with Winstead is here, is our bond counsel, so if you have any questions for him, he can answer those. I made one mistake when I did the communications. On the second issue, on the refunding, we are not selling those bonds today. They will be sold in 15 days. We are just setting parameters for their sale. And Dan can explain that in more detail if you'd like to. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joe.
All right, thank you, Pam. Mayor, members of council, Joe Morrow with Hilltop Securities. We did go into the market this morning for the sale of your bonds. In preparation for that, as we typically do, we went to the rating agencies to ask them of their credit opinion of the city, and they confirmed a AA1, AA plus, AA1 from Moody's, AA plus from Standard & Poor's. That's about as high as you can get. The only rating above that is a AAA. And while that may be on the horizon at some point, they kind of tempered our expectations that we would be getting it right away. And a lot of that has to do simply with the size of the city, diversification of your tax base. Usually, it's larger cities that get the AAA. Believe me, a AA1, AA plus is a fabulous rating. Your bonds are rated much higher than the city of Houston, for instance, and I guess that's not much of a surprise. But you are in very elite company to hold a rating in the AA1, AA plus category. And that leads to a lot of demand and competition for your bonds, as you'll see in a moment. I passed out prior to the meeting this booklet, and if you will turn to tab 1, this is just an overview of the municipal bond market. This is a snapshot of weekly data points published by the Bond Buyer Index. And this really just gives us an indication of market direction. And you can see pretty much since the pandemic started, rates fell down because the Fed was doing accommodating monetary policy and trying to keep the economy going as everything was slowing down. They're continuing to do that, though have they recently announced they're going to be easing back off of that over the next year. So sometime in 2022, we'll expect to see them start to raise the Fed funds rate, which is the rate that banks loan money to each other at. But you can see we've been bouncing kind of at the lowest rates have been recorded at. So a pretty good time to be into the market. Behind tab 2 is the results of our bid process this morning. We had 5 bids that were submitted, and you can tell they were pretty tight, but the winning bid came from Piper Sandler and Company at a 1.74%. And I just, as we were sitting here, I was looking over some of your prior sales, and this now takes first place. This is the lowest rate we've sold 20-year bonds at. So again, a good time to be in the market. Not that we ever try and time it, we're just not that smart. So we got pretty lucky to capture rates at this level. Behind tab number 3, you can see the debt service payments that you'll be amortizing your principal at. And just as a matter of interest, because rates are so low, your bonds sold at a premium. So even though the par amount that we're selling is $7,340,000, they're paying us like an extra $500,000 that's going to cover the cost of issuance, their costs of or profit to themselves for selling your bonds, and put $7,600,000 into your construction account. So that's, you know, kind of an added benefit of rates being at such an absolute low right now, is that your bonds did sell at a premium.
Did all the people that bid, did they do the same, make the same offer, or is it just the one that we selected?
The offer is to buy all or none at specific interest rates. Okay. And yes, everybody did offer a premium.
Okay.
We're bidding at a premium. So this was our lowest true interest cost, which is what we had set up to award the winning bid on. Does anybody have any questions I may address for you? If not, we would recommend you proceed and award the bonds to Piper Sandler.
Okay. Any other questions? Any questions?
No, sir.
All right, go ahead and read the overview.
Mayor, the charge says I have to read the whole thing.
No, it doesn't. It can be requested. If anybody wants to request, they
Okay.
Okay.
Ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Lake Jackson, Texas Limited Tax Bond, Series 2021, entry into a paying agent registrar agreement, and approving all other matters related thereto.
All right, I'll accept a motion on this item.
Move for approval?
Motion to approve. I need to take a second.
I'll second.
All right. Any other discussions or questions? Any comment from the audience? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Move on to item 2. This is also going to be first and final reading. So this is consideration and approval of an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Lake Jackson, Texas Limited Tax Refund Bond Series 2021, entering into a payment agreement, registrar agreement, and an escrow agreement delegating authority to the city representatives to select obligations to be refunded and approve final terms of the bonds and approving all other matters related thereto. So we're just a first and final reading we're asking for, so we're going to need to suspend the rules. So I'll go ahead and take a motion on that.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
All right, a motion to suspend.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Okay, so let's talk about this item. Then is anything further to talk about it? Pam talked about it a little bit.
Pam, mentioned it a little bit. This is just, you're really creating a framework for us to go out to the market in the next 15 days. And then if we see bonds in, I guess, at a certain return or a certain interest rate savings, then we'll go ahead and sell those. I think, one of the things I had mentioned, we were anticipating somewhere around 700. I think that's dropped a little bit we're hoping to have a savings of about 500,000 over the life of the bonds. The one other issue that I asked Pam today, because I was unclear, it does not change the amount of time that the bonds are outstanding. So we're not increasing the length of our payments.
That's correct. We're not extending the life of the bonds. We're simply trying to take advantage of the fact that interest rates are lower now than when we sold them, and we have reached our option date. We embed an option to prepay the bonds or refinance, and we have reached that date. So that's why we are here to execute these now.
So what's the cost of refinancing?
The costs, sorry, I thought I had a paper version, but thank goodness we have cell phones.
No, we just want to make sure the interest savings will be able to payable in the time of this cost.
Yes, and we're projecting that the cost will be $117,000, and all of your savings are calculated after costs have been taken into account. So
About 500, so, right, that's what I heard from Modesto?
So it'd still be 500,000 after the
Yes.
refinance cost.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
So the bonds series that we're going to do this with, or is it, am I correct? It's 2010 series, 2013 series? Is that what we've got here in our notes?
Pam, is that correct?
Yes, there's
4? And then, okay. Yep, 2014 also. Okay. Any other questions? All right. You want to read the
Yes.
caption, please?
This is an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the City of Lake Jackson, Texas Limited Tax Refunding Bond Series 2021, entering into a paying agent registrar agreement and an escrow agreement delegating authority to the city representatives to select obligations to be refunded and approve final terms of the bonds and approving all other matters related thereto.
Okay, I'll take a motion on this item.
Move for approval.
I have a motion for approval.
Second?
I have a second from Councilman Sinhanya. Any other discussion? Any questions, comments? Yes, go ahead.
Mayor, good evening, Dan Martinez.
I'm sorry, I have to, I have to,
No covers at all usually, but I just wanted to comment, this is something a little different that we typically don't do. But for the record, so you guys, just by way of explanation, the beauty of this type of ordinance, we call it a parameter ordinance, I think it's what this was alluding to. We've set some parameters in the document that we have to achieve before we can execute on and deliver on the bond. And so right now, we're projecting a minimum 4% savings, a max maturity. As Joe mentioned, we're not extending the maturity of the original bonds, and we want to achieve that minimum savings we discussed. So that's all built into the order. We cannot execute on that transaction until we hit those hurdles. That way we confirm with the pricing certificate, and we delegate the authority to certain city representatives. Typically, it's the city manager, the mayor, and the finance director to kind of finalize all the documents. And assuming we achieve those parameters, we don't have to come back to the council for further action. We're getting that authority today.
And this is good for 15 days from today.
Yes, sir. Okay. That's the targeted price.
okay. Thank you for the further clarification. Okay. Any other questions on council? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Safe travel back.
Thank you.
Okay. We have item 3, discuss and consider Charter Review Commission's report and council recommendations for changes to the charter. Again, this will be an agenda item that we'll go forward with until we make a final decision on what we're going to take to the voters. So at this time, this gives us an opportunity to discuss any kind of items, if you wish, concerning the Charter Review Commission report and any kind of ads or whatever you want to do.
So, a lot of these are housekeeping, and I'll bring back redlining and stuff to you all in December, but just looking over it now, to start with, I think it's important for you all to talk about vacancies in the mayor's position and how it's gonna be filled. I had discussed this with the Charter Review Committee, that you don't wanna just pull someone who's never been elected to office out of the public and have them be mayor. But then, and so I suggested Fulton City Council, but then Modesto and the mayor were like, well, what about a former mayor or former city councilman? Like, oh, well, yeah, they've been elected, that would be okay too. So I don't know if you all have any thoughts on the way you would want to replace a mayor if the mayor needed to be replaced. Or just think about it and we'll bring it back next time. Yeah. Okay, that's your homework, because
Very
most
good.
of these you don't need homework. But that one you need to think about, that one's really important.
Okay.
So I have a question. If there was not a recommendation in this charter review and you want to add one, can the council do that, or?
Yes, that's why we added in city council,
Okay.
because if you want to add something, you guys can email me and I'll bring it back to council, or you can just mention it up here and I'll bring it back in
Yeah.
some sort of a red line form, yes.
I have an item. I'll send it to you via email.
Okay, great, and then we'll add that to the agenda and y'all can discuss it. Yes.
Thank you.
Can we do parameters that say we cannot just choose somebody, nobody can be chosen that has not served and has some idea of what's going on? I mean, can that be clarified on there as well?
Yes, that's what I need exactly. Former mayors, former council, someone who's been elected, current, whether you want a current council or not. Maybe someone who's not gonna run for mayor, the way the county did the DA's office this time. Just, yeah, if you all could think that through and,
Okay.
bring back your thoughts, that would be great.
And someone will provide us the information on the bond question, that what would be appropriate bond that we should be.
So what it says is that the city manager and the finance director and other people who have fiscal power and responsibility should have bonds. They should
Right.
be bonded.
Right.
And, it doesn't give an amount. It just says they should be bonded, and I think that would probably, TML or TMRS, there are bonds out there, and they would probably, if y'all wanted to continue with the bonds, I think we would bring them up because I have no idea.
I mean, if those folks feel like they need to be protected, then perhaps we
Oh, no,
should.
this protects you from them.
Yeah,
Okay,
Our insurance
Yeah.
doesn't cover malfeasance in office.
okay, so it's the other way
It's the
around.
other way
It's
around.
the other way around.
Okay.
It protects the city from Modesto and Pam, yes,
Okay,
and other people with monetary power, right.
I think we're the other people.
That's too late. All right. So the question is going to be is, do we want to keep the requirement of bonds?
Yes,
And then if we do want to keep it, then what are we going to set those at?
right.
And we should be able to get some guidance from, like you said, TML or some other.
So we currently require those bonds.
It's in the charter. But we don't think anyone's ever been bought it.
The bonds aren't free, right? You
Oh, no,
you buy these.
You buy your bonds.
Right.
Yes. You pay for them. It's just another kind of insurance.
Okay, so we got some homework, and we'll put that back on. Is it okay to just leave it as open as it is with this action item, or do you want to be more specific of discuss vacancies?
Well, that's a good point, maybe. If you all email me something, and I'll put vacancies and
Okay.
bonds, and make those specific.
Specific ones, okay.
And, because the rest of these, when y'all read them, it really is, it's good housekeeping.
Right.
But those are two very specific things we should think about, so they should probably come back on the agenda.
Okay. All right. And you want feedback by the Wednesday before the next meeting, or when?
The Wednesday before the meeting is when Sally is starting to
Okay,
make
that's
phone
what-
calls
that's
and
what I'm asking.
emails. So, I would say the Monday before the meeting
Okay.
would be great.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Next agenda item is to discuss proposed changes to prohibit yard parking ordinance 182161. Milford's going to talk about this, but I'm also lead into it. Again, this is something that we brought back to council several months ago. We talked about that there need to be we had David came to us and talked about some of the challenges they had with the ordinance, with being able to enforce it, and was asking for some changes that might help improve his ability to enforce this ordinance. And so we discussed it a little bit, and we decided to take it to a subcommittee, and I've volunteered to lead that effort, I guess, on the subcommittee. So that's it was David, me, and Milford, and Sabrina was involved at the beginning on it also. And we also have had input from Modesto and Sherry with the recommendations. These are recommendations that we're bringing back to council to, again, address some of the concerns that David had brought to us, and that was the size. There was an issue with being able to enforce it because we didn't put any kind of size associated with the parking space. So there was an individual that was parking, took four 12-inch by 12-inch pavers and put them underneath each tire and said he met the requirement. Well, that wasn't what we were talking about when we said about being on an improved surface. So that's why there's some definition of what an improved surface is as far as dimension goes. The dimension that you'll find in there is also the dimensions that's defined elsewhere in our ordinances that states what's the minimum size of a parking space in the city of Lake Jackson. That's why those numbers are there. The other piece of it is the concern was that in the ordinance we had no description that said that for a motor vehicle to get from the streets to the parking pad, that they had to also have an improved surface, a path that was made out of an improved surface. So that's also something that we addressed with these recommendations. And then there was the concern is that in our originally in the ordinance we had that there was allowance for 72 hours for if people had large family gathering or something like that, that people could park in their yard for up to 72 hours. And that was a challenge, just like we have a challenge with parking in street, how long you can park in the street without moving your vehicle. That's really hard to enforce. And this ordinance is like many ordinances we have, is that we enforce them by way of citizens' complaints, saying that somebody's taking advantage or abusing a privilege or whatever you want to call it. And we look into it and we address it that way, instead of driving the streets and looking for violations. So, Milford, you want to take it from here? If there's anything else you would have to add?
The only thing else that I think we did discuss was, I know some, I think number 6 there, it says the primary driveway must have at least 2 parking spaces. I know that there are some older homes that do not have that space.
No, it's not.
What's that?
I looked at it.
Okay.
That's just for garages, not for parking spaces.
All right, perfect.
So we're okay.
Yeah, so, I discussed that with Sherry, and she went back and reviewed it, and to make that clarification.
Mayor, I think the one other item is, you guys did put in there the required no less than 3 inches.
Yes, that's, so that what we had is that it had to be improved service, and so, again, whenever it gets back to any kind of ordinance, when you say an improved surface, you have to define that. And we didn't have a definition, a clear enough definition of what that improved surface is. And where the recommendation of 3 inches came from, I did a lot of surveys to other cities across the state of Texas, and this is a common issue as far as cities have. It's not unusual to find other cities across the state of Texas that have ordinances that restrict or do not allow parking in yards. And most of those, whenever they start talking improved surfaces, especially when they start talking about crushed stone and so forth, they state 3 inches. And there's also a component in there, if you read it, that it talks about that those improved surfaces have to be clear of vegetation. And they also have to be bordered. And it's 2 reasons for keeping it clear. Again, David was asking about it, is that if it's clear of vegetation, that way he knows it is crushed stone that's underneath there, and you know what kind of material construction it is. And the bordering is also, it shows, it not only keeps the material in the defined area of the pathway or the parking space, but it also further defines those areas from the yard, the rest of the yard. So, again, what we had was we had a standing ordinance that was in place, and it was being enforced somewhat. But the reason why it was brought back to council is that it needed some further clarification so that it can be better enforced by our code enforcement personnel.
So, Mr. Mayor, I just have one question or one concern, is the last item that was removed about, and I understand why it was requested to be removed, but that's gonna really cause hardship for folks in some neighborhoods of town where, you know, they don't have the room to park. And so if the visitors come for Thanksgiving, Christmas, or whatever, they have no room for them to park. So perhaps we could tighten that up a bit and say if it's certain holidays, if your driveway is empty, you cannot park in your yard, but if your driveway is full, you're allowed to park on certain days. So that'll clarify what days you can do that and what condition. Because I'm just concerned about, that's the reason we had put that in there before, for people in Papaya and all those other neighborhoods, Almond, and, you know, just not enough room for them to park. And it's just, they can't, everybody park in the street, because the streets are not wide enough to begin with. And that's my concern. So I you know, I wait to hear from my fellow council persons.
So, this particular council, I believe, has already heard from me as a citizen prior to me being on this council regarding this issue. I absolutely understand the need. I mean, I think we're very proud of our city. We keep it looking good. We work very hard. Our Keep Lake Jackson Beautiful Committee does a great job. I do think we've reached a point of micromanaging our city's citizens and their private property rights. My suggestion is to repeal this 2018 ordinance altogether. The city has dictated how wide the streets are, which, as you just said, are not wide enough. The city dictates to the builders how wide the driveways have to be. The state dictates that we can't park on sidewalks. I find it a little disheartening that we come to the point where we have lost the ability to communicate with our neighbors and to do so in a way that's respectful and productive. People get up, everybody in this room, every day, get up and go to work. You work hard, you get your paycheck, you pay property taxes, you pay taxes on just about everything you do. And then you're told, okay, your streets are only this big, your driveway can only be this big, and essentially you're being limited on vehicles in your home. So as our kids get older, as you have more licensed drivers in your family, what are the options? So, I personally don't want to park in my yard. I don't want to look at people parking. My neighbor across the street, she's got a car parked in her yard right now. It's been there for a while. It's not hurting me. I don't like to look at it, but there is no public safety issue. I would rather her be parked in her yard, frankly. A friend of mine, Billy Connor, he's at 219 Narcissus, I believe, last month had his truck totaled, parked in front of his home by a driver going down the street. And then he also said there was a month later, same thing happened down their street. Our streets are too narrow to park on. So what recourse do we leave our citizens? You can't use your property, you can't use the streets. And so my suggestion is either to come up with a better compromise on this particular wording, and instead of tightening it down, allow citizens to utilize their own property.
Well, to address some of that is that we're still allowing the citizens to use their property. We're just saying that if you're going to utilize your property to park your vehicles, that it needs to be on an improved surface. So you can still park your vehicles, you can still purchase as many vehicles as you want to. And our ordinance doesn't keep you, if you prefer to, you can concrete the whole front of your yard as long as it's behind the 16-foot easement in the front of your yard.
Right, but how many of our neighborhoods, like my neighborhood, for example, that was the first thing I did when I moved into my neighborhood was the driveways were bad. They were poorly built, and that was the first thing I did was I widened my driveway.
Right.
Matt Houston came out and inspected it, pulled out a tape measure, said it can only be 27 foot wide. So that's
just the curb cut from the street, once you get past the 16 feet.
right, but in that type of neighborhood, 16 foot's a pretty big chunk.
Right.
And those type of neighborhoods like Almond and and that's a lot of neighborhoods in Lake Jackson. So I just think we've gone to micromanaging.
The other thing is that this ordinance was brought about or requested. It wasn't because the council decided that this is a good thing to go do. This was made by requests, numerous requests by citizens across our community that were concerned. They were appalled by their neighborhoods looking less and less of what they originally moved into because of vehicles parking in front of their yards and rutting up the front yards and so forth. Again, it was by request. A lot of our ordinances we have are done by request of citizens of saying, we can't resolve this ourselves. We would like the city to do something about this. That's just how it got started.
Sure, and I understand that, and I think we all can see by the number of vacant chairs here that citizen involvement maybe isn't where we would like it to be. And maybe this is 100 citizens have come forward and said, we don't want people parking in their yards. But I'm pretty sure I could pull 100 citizens in here saying we want to be left alone on our property. And that's just what I'm saying. It's one of those squeaky wheels gets the grease sort of thing.
Well, at some part, it is squeaky wheel, but the other side of our role on council is to listen to the community, to understand what the greater community is asking for. And so I assure you this isn't a squeaking wheel, because I remember when we talked about this, we had other members on council that said that, yes, they had been contacted. Okay. And yes, they've been asked for us, and that they've talked to their neighbor and asked them, why don't you, can you park, on your driveway or whatever type stuff. And, you know, this is bringing down the look of our neighborhood. And I'm just, just condensing that down into some of the comments I heard. And so it was, you know, it's somewhere you've got to, somewhere there has to, you know, where do you draw the line on government involvement?
And that's the question. I
And so-
agree completely with that.
But there's some public safety involved here, because, you know, if you track dirt onto the road, and it just makes the road slick and muddy.
You park
and-
in the road, you get your vehicle totaled, and just hope you're not sitting at the time. You hope that the kids, you know, aren't running out from behind it when you're rolling down the street, which literally I have had the little boy chasing the ball out between the parked street vehicles before.
Yeah, so you're not gonna solve everything, but, you know,
You're
we
not.
try to be as prudent as we can on, and I have a couple of folks that forwarded my emails to Modesto. I mean, this one particular gentleman, he's after every day. I can't even go outside and pick up my newspaper in the morning.
Well, I'm getting the same messages the other way, so I understand.
So,
I'm understanding people saying it's my property, why am I being restricted like this? So.
But there's, you know,
And
we
I'm
have,
wondering if there's not some compromise on here as well. So what we're doing is we're taking an ordinance that was worded in a way that made it difficult for code enforcement to enforce. And that's the other thing, is we're using city tax dollars. I want to say it was like $7,000 in payroll last time when this was brought before, for the code enforcement officers to go out and track all this down, which I think is what prompted the need to clarify. We're using city tax dollars to solve really a civil issue in a lot of ways. And here's the thing, I don't want people parking in the yards either.
Right.
I don't feel like that is our role to dictate that.
well, but at the same time there's a lot of things where if you want to use your words, we've chosen to dictate. An example being is we have an ordinance that says that you can't play music so loud in your house that a person sitting in their living room next door can hear it. That's a violation of an ordinance.
Right.
So are we imposing on people's rights to be able to play their music as loud as they want and to interfere with the comfort of other people?
So to open that can of worms, I'm thinking that there's probably a lot of ordinances that we have that some of us would feel overstep. So,
Okay.
and then, you know, there's the question of, is if Mr. Buell parks his car in his yard, is that hurting me? Is that a public safety problem, truly, versus parking in the street? I mean, it's all perspective. What I really wish is that citizens would just do the right thing and be respectful of one another and just do the right thing.
I think we all feel that way. We wish that this could be handled neighbor talking to neighbor, but
Sure.
this day and age is, there's too many of our neighbors that are afraid to go talk to their neighbor because they've never met him before, and they're afraid of what kind of response they'll get back,
No.
or what kind of retribution will get taken against them. So, you know, a lot of times when a lot of people bring these issues, I think it's the same way with the rest of the people on council, is when somebody brings an issue like this to us, we say, well, have you talked to the neighbor? And sometimes they'll say, yes, I talked to him, and the neighbor, you know, I had a lady that contacted me just this weekend, and said that, you know, their neighbor across the street has a large driveway. They never park their cars in the driveway. They always park them on the street, and they park their cars behind their driveway. Well, it's an elderly couple, and it's hard for them to back out of their driveway because these vehicles are parked directly behind their driveway. So I said, I'll look into it and see if we have an ordinance or a state law that says you can't park behind. Because remember going back to school, when you're driving classes, we were always told, don't park behind a driveway because you might get backed into. And so there is no city ordinance, and there is no state code that says that you can't park behind a driveway. You can't block a driveway. They still have to be able to get out of the driveway. But as far as parking behind it, so again, this person went talk to their neighbor. A neighbor basically said, I don't care, you know? And so sadly, that's what we have. And so, you know, she may come back to me and say, is there something council can do? And my answer would be is that we'd have to see how much of an issue it is across the city and see if there's a need for us to resolve this because it's for the greater good of the community type issue. So that's kind of where we are with this. Again, it was citizen-driven. It wasn't council-driven. And it was done by request. And we did have feedback from some people that said that they thought it was overreach. We also had people that came to us and said the same thing, is that if I can't park my car in the yard, I'm gonna have to park it on the street, and I have a double wide or a big pickup truck with the big wide mirrors, and, you know, they're gonna get knocked off. You know, Mr. Yenny used to always say is that, I think if I quote him correctly, it was something very similar, is that we're not responsible as a city or in a city government to provide parking at your home. Parking is, you know, the street's not there provided for you to park. The street is there to provide you a means to to move in and out of your neighborhood. But we do allow parking in the street today to enable people to be able to have more vehicles at their homes without having to go through the cost of putting what we're suggesting here. And you know, there may be some kind of concern about if we're going to a lot of detail on what we're going to require. Sadly, that's what we have to do with an ordinance. By definition, we have to define what is an improved surface and all those type of things. It appears like we're nitpicking or micromanaging, but that's just having a clear ordinance that can be enforced when we need to in the community.
So if the city doesn't provide parking, they don't provide wide enough streets, and they tell you you can't park on your property unless you do it the way the city says. Essentially.
Yes. Now, as far as the street width, I have already suggested many times, and we will have the conversation at council level of making modification to our street designs as we rebuild those.
Yeah.
I was hoping that we could get it into the current budget, current bond that we have for the streets coming up. We may not have the dollars or not, but I would hope that in the future, what I would like to suggest is that we will resolve that issue at least a little bit, provide more room in the streets for people to be able to park and park their vehicles safely.
Well, I think we started that conversation, that was the big conversation, if everybody remembers, about Lakewood Manor, the parking.
Right.
And that was, you know, some compromise was reached there as well.
Yep. Correct. Any other discussion or comments from council on this item? Do y'all, I mean, we've got recommendations here. Do y'all have a problem with the recommendations? So if you want to move forward, if you don't have any issues with them, well, then we can move forward with at least making the modifications and so forth. And if Ms. Seth wants to make the recommendation on a future agenda item to repeal this, it can be an agenda item also for discussion on that.
Yeah, for me, I think whether or not it should exist at all is a question, in my mind, separate and apart from this one. If it is going to exist, I feel like it needs to exist in a form like this, whereby it is enforceable, and that we just have to make the hard decision on whether or not to have it.
Right.
But to have it in a manner that's not enforceable doesn't do anybody any good. It's sort of just left there
Right.
in limbo. That I would support the adoption of these changes, because I don't think it changes the scope that much, and then certainly entertain all the arguments in favor of having it at all when it's time to do that. So that's my own read on the
And again,
changes.
to address Mr. Sanhanya's concerns is that me personally, I wouldn't have a problem if we specify a specific holiday, be it Thanksgiving, be it Christmas. But I would, again, putting it down to certain hours is that is impossible to enforce.
No, I'm okay with that particular holiday, then I'm even okay with your driveway is empty, then why are you parking in the grass on the lawn? If your driveway is full and
That's an interesting concept for parking wise in my mind, because I see that happen with the street parking issue as well.
Right.
That it bothers me more when there's parking in the street and no cars in the driveway. And I'm sure I've done it in the past when I was younger, especially because different people leave at different times in the morning, and the kids got to go to school before the parents, and you can't always shuffle things. But,
Inconvenience.
right, it's a more of a convenience issue, but does end up creating bigger issues for everybody else driving on the road. So if there was some language like that could be adopted for both the street parking and the yard parking,
But the challenge you
I don't
have
know.
is that you may see a vacant driveway, but the cars parked in the street, you don't know where they belong.
That's true
That
too.
could be 3 houses down. So that one's gonna, again, that's gonna be hard to enforce, I think.
Yeah.
That's true too.
So,
We can leave that and see where it takes us. I just feel that it's gonna create hardship, and I just don't wanna, create a hardship for some of the citizens, that's all.
Do you think it's the length of time, or do you think any time, like if that was 24 hours, or if it
Well,
was
but 24
shorter or
hours would-
longer, or?
but you don't know when the 24 hours start, and you don't know if the vehicles left and came back, so that starts the clock. It's just like on parking in the street. You're restricted out how long you can park in the street without moving your vehicle. So then you have the old pebble thing or the chalk mark. Everybody knows it. So they either wipe the chalk mark off or change it, or they put the pebble back on whenever they come back. So then the police officer drives by and says, okay, the car hasn't moved. But, I mean, the cars, or whatever, it's just,
Yeah.
it's
holiday
hard
takes
to,
out
it's
the
hard to control,
ambiguity.
to monitor.
And remind me again, you said, and I remember it being correct, but I'm trying to remember why. The entrance, the entrance from the street to the driveway is limited somehow, 27 feet?
Within 16 feet of the easement. Your widest part, your driveway, the widest it can be is 27 feet. And the reason being is because of the underground utilities, to be able to tunnel under it without having to brake or whatever. We can tunnel under some of them. And then also, well, Sal can explain it, of course.
Yeah, no,
but-
it's coming back, it's coming back.
It's-
That discussion that you don't break up as
But
much
you-
concrete
Right,
anymore.
right.
But once you get past that, you can go as big as you want with whatever surface you want. As
After
long
the
as it's
16
approved
feet, you
according
can
to.
go
yeah,
as
okay.
far as you can. You can
But,
put
you know,
diagonal
Concrete
parking.
roll yard.
Yeah,
Plus,
you-
in today's technology, they do side boring all the time, so to me, this driveway issue is really a non-issue, because, you can do.
the challenge that we
side
have with
boring.
side boring is that we don't have that equipment. We have to contract that all out.
Most
So-
time, we do contract all this stuff out. We don't have city crews who are specialized. in
No,
this
we
area.
do replace our own water main breaks and so forth, most of them, unless we get into a bad season like we've had a few times in the past. But most of the time, it's city employees. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
So it's,
stand corrected.
so, I mean, we could, if you know, anyway. So,
Can of worms.
no, it's just, it's not really a can of worms. It's just that we go back and revisit some things over and over, just like the 27 feet wide drive. We've covered it several times, and we've always come back to keeping it 27 feet wide. So what do we want to do here? Want to move forward with the recommendations and get it into the ordinance and then make a final approval?
Mr. Walton, did you have anything to add?
No, but
You know the rules.
yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do know the rules. No, but when Mr. Broadus was asking about the width of driveways and then suggested that, Sal could answer, those are questions that I could also answer, but council and the mayor answered it. So I just
Okay.
made myself available to not have to walk so far.
Okay, all right.
So, Mr. Mayor, to just keep this moving, I'll go ahead and make a motion, which may not get second, but for the council to approve the recommendation changes to the current yard parking ordinance as presented.
Okay, I have a motion. And I'm looking for a second.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Again, this is just to move it forward. And we'll have a final version of the ordinance come back to us next council meeting, and we'll make a final vote on the final ordinance.
Well,
Is that right?
I'll put it in ordinance form, it'll be
Right.
first reading.
Right. So there's still plenty of opportunity to discuss it, so we're moving it forward to this. So we have a motion, first and second. Any other comments or discussion? Any comments from the audience? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right, motion carries. Move this forward. Move on to item 5. Okay, so this is item 5, discuss and consider an ordinance amending Chapter 98, traffic to extend the school zone on Anchusa for Best Brandon Elementary, first and final reading. So do we need to do a suspension? Sherry?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's do a suspension first. I need a motion and a second on the suspension rules.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, rules have been suspended. Now we'll go into talking about the ordinance.
This is an ordinance of the City of Lake Jackson, Texas, amending Chapter 98 Traffic and Vehicles to the Code of Ordinances to extend the school zone on Anchusa for Best Brandon Elementary, providing that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith shall be repealed to the extent of the conflict only, providing for a penalty, providing a savings clause, and suspending the charter rule requiring 2 readings.
All right, I need a motion and a second to move this into discussion.
I'll move to, move this into discussion.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All right, we're going to go to, let's have some discussion on this. So give us some back, we're talking about the distance, right?
Yes, sir. At the last meeting, we discussed the police department has been monitoring that area. We have put a crossing guard at that location, and we monitored it for, I think, believe 10 days actually with a police officer also. And their recommendation was to come back and extend that school zone a number of feet. Sherry, and they picked a point and consulted with the city attorney, and then Sherry has drafted that into the ordinance format, extending that school zone. The one big discussion was, putting school zone times, but when you get to the school property, it's all day, and staff's recommending that we keep it as all day as well, an extension versus having certain hour periods, and then all of a sudden you quickly transition to an all day, and it would be a little confusing.
Now, are they for sure adding crossing guards here or no?
We have added a crossing guard there, yes.
So when you say all day, you're talking about all school day?
All school day,
Yeah,
yes.
so just as long as it doesn't say all day.
Yes, I think it says.
That's 24 hours.
Yes.
No, there's
I
a
know.
definition
Okay.
for all-day school zones in the chapter.
Okay, all right.
And there's a map, I think,
Right.
right above this. Yep. Do you-
Yep.
Yeah, and you can see it's that part that.
Right, the
it
Blue
curves
Bonnet.
around the park, and so it
Right.
just makes sort of a blind spot.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what they
that park,
suggested.
that park is, you can't
Elevated.
tell it from here because you're straight above it, but it is elevated. It is very high,
Yeah, the Blue Bonnet
It's the
Park is
biggest
pretty
hill
high.
on Lake Jackson.
Yeah, so
Is
when
that
it
right?
when it rains,
I don't know.
probably.
yeah, that's the high point.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't
Yeah.
know, since they built Best Brandon up, it may not be the high point anymore.
So the pin looks like it's halfway through that little S curve there. Is that accurate or is it?
That is my ability, that's the best I can do on.
Okay,
Yeah.
but the ordinance will say something more specifically than that.
140 feet.
It's 140 feet from the east side of Dahlia.
East of Dahlia,
Yes.
okay.
So,
All right.
that's what
Yeah, with the
police
change in the
department
school, I think that'll be a good change.
And we'll place a sign if council approves. It will not be a flashing light sign.
Not yet.
Not yet. That will probably be in the next budget year. So it'll be a regular sign, and then we'll transition to the budget year for a flashing sign.
It'll have, since we're putting a new sign, it'll have flags on it, right?
Yes,
Like when you're going into the school zone,
Yes.
yes.
you'll ultimately have the lights, but not
Ultimately,
coming
we'll have the
out.
light next budget year. We'll budget for their 25,000 piece. So we'll budget for, so we'll put a school zone sign like we've had in the past,
Yeah.
and then we'll transition to a flashing sign,
Okay.
in the next budget year.
Mr. Mundo, going down 288, some of those crossings that had those flashing signs with solar panels, the state just took them down, threw them on the side of the road. Can we
Recycle?
Harness them,
recycle them?
upcycle them?
Which
Yeah.
road?
288. They put those medium barriers, and they used to be single pole, and they took them down and just threw them on the side of the road. They've been laying there for almost 6 months now.
But it's
Solar
county,
panels.
it's text
Yeah,
on.
the solar panels, yeah.
It's
But
text
just
on.
flashing light.
We'll look and check.
We can check with them and see if they
We'll
don't
check
want
with
them.
the area
Can we
engineer.
routinely send someone to check for trash on the side of the road?
Who's got a
at that
truck?
location?
Who's got a truck? No.
We'll send KLJB out. I saw them the other day picking up. We'll pick up some of
You know,
them.
we just
That's right.
repurpose that, just, It is laying there.
We'll ask TxDOT and see if there will, if they would. I don't know if they can be reused, but.
Just a solar panel
Yeah,
on
it
the
can be
lights part,
reused.
you know.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay, any other discussion on this item? All right, I think we do have a motion and a second, but the motion and second was to move this forward. So if you could amend your motion to accept this ordinance.
Yeah, absolutely. I would move to accept the ordinance as presented.
Okay, now I need a
Second.
second. Okay. All right, a motion and a second to move, to approve this ordinance, first and final reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, so we go to item 6, discuss and consider a recommendation from Traffic Commission to install no parking signs on Royal Oak Circle by Best Brandon Elementary. Sabrina's going to talk to us about this. And I had a compliment, well, I got it right here, a compliment about you, about
Oh,
being
boy.
very understanding
Oh,
on
boy.
an issue.
I don't know,
traffic.
Modesto, I have no idea.
They got her on her good day.
So the issue that's here is, when Best Brandon was put in, they did have a traffic engineer that came out and gave us a report with specific locations for the flashers, for the different school signage, what they should say, where they should be, and all of that. They did go on Arrowhead and Tanager. There are signs that say no parking during, like, the morning drop-off zone and the evening, the afternoon pickup zone, okay? There's a resident that lives on Royal Oak that says that, has came before traffic and says that she's having the same issue on her street. I don't know why the engineering report did not bring that up at the beginning. It assumes everybody, I guess, was supposed to be using the Best
Staging.
Brandon lanes as they are designed, and they are not. A lot of them are, but some people still are not using the lanes.
Just like
So she
Cedar.
has requested that we come out and we put the same type of signage on her street that is on Arrowwood and Tanager. And Traffic Commission agreed with her request, or agreed to bring her request forward to council.
Sabrina, was it one request, did the neighborhood also agree with that?
I haven't heard from anybody else on that street. She's the
That's
one
like-
that's been bringing that.
It's like 6 or 7 houses on the whole street.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a very
No,
big
it
location.
just, sometimes we'll put up a sign or a street light and then we suffer the wrath of, we
What-
didn't ask for it, so I just wonder if the.
What she's really getting is
neighborhood had
that because the
asked.
street, when people are parking on both sides of the street, she can't turn down to come through because she can't get her vehicle through there.
Right.
So she'd even offered a compromise if you just did one side of the street, you know?
Yeah, and there's, in the packet, there's a picture of what I think the school gave us. And I suspect that the no parking
Yeah.
signs on Tanager and Arrowwood only exist on this map because they were already there when this map was
That's correct,
created.
and those were of our making and not of the school district, so.
Right.
That's probably why they,
And-
the study would not have looked at that.
Right.
No.
And so, yeah, since the school moved from here, because here's Tanager and Arrowwood, so they'd stack up here. They moved down here. I bet there's not a single person parking their car right here waiting for school to get out. Maybe some here, but almost most of them. Well, this one, I take that back, because this is where the upper level kids, second, third, fourth, I think, get out here. Well, there's like a bike. The entrance is here, but for the kids riding bikes, it's right here. So parents could drop their kids off with a bike getting out of the back of their car, which I see because I drop my kids off in the morning, every morning. But then the kindergartners and the littler ones, the smaller ones are here, and the entrance to the stacking lanes is way down here by Royal Oak. And so you do see that some in the morning. I don't pick up, so I don't see what they're stacking up. I don't see what it looks like in the afternoons, but it wouldn't surprise me if all the problems you were seeing on Arrowwood, or some of them, a lot of the problems would be resolved hopefully by the stacking lanes, which exist now and did not when this picture was taken. But I do know there's still some cars that come and park here temporarily to let kids out and do some other things. And I suspect it's even worse at pickup time. But like I said, I've never seen that personally.
Yeah, I would say in the study, when the school district was looking at, they were looking at to provide plenty of room for stacking lane and then assume that everybody loves to be in a stacking lane.
I was gonna say, so we had the same problem it was on Cedar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Across, so where the parents would wait and they wanted their kids, because to
We have the
walk
same thing
across
at Ra- we have-
Plantation.
We have the same thing at Rasco. There's plenty of room to stack, but a lot choose
Then you have to wait
be
longer.
at the rec center.
To address Councilman Broadus's.
Sure.
If you raise that up just a little bit, can you raise that up a little bit, Milford, up the other way? Yeah, if you see this down here, this tells you everything that has that triangle is an install or proposed sign. Everything else is either replace an existing or remove an existing, or that's an existing sign. And the reason that we would replace is if they've updated the standards, and that's it. So you're quite right. There are not very many, a lot of those signs were already existing signs that were in there, and they did not add a lot of signs, and they didn't go down onto the Royal Oak at all, as you can see from this, which is, Royal Oak is down, I care, so.
Correct.
So the request is for all of Royal Oak, that cul-de-sac, that's a cul-de-sac, right? Yeah.
Yes.
It is, right? Probably one sign on each side of the road, if I'm guessing.
Yeah, probably, at least, two signs, one each, show each way.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
And the resident that came to the meeting requesting, were they in the, at the entryway or close to the entryway?
they're a little bit further into here, yeah.
Okay.
The thing that she was showing was up around here, and it makes it where she can't get.
Right, it's like you say, you'll see, I think one of the pictures might even show it. You get one car on each side right at the mouth, then you can't get out or in.
Okay.
And of course, they park by the mouth because their kids have to walk
I
a
guess the
shorter
question would
distance.
be is do we just restrict the parking so far from the intersection? Or do we do the whole cul-de-sac?
Yeah, because then they would just scoot to the edge and stop
Yeah.
there, and you'll still have them side by side. Plus, it's really not that deep.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
3 houses deep.
No doubt if you do the whole thing.
And it's timed, right? I mean, they're like for an hour and a half
Yes,
in the
I
afternoon.
did go out there
and-
this
and
afternoon.
An hour in the
and
morning or something, but yeah.
It's only those signs, everything that I saw in Arrowwood and all of those.
Yeah, plus
are-
with the kid, you don't want kids running out from behind those cars and all, like Rhonda was saying
Right.
in the other context. Yeah, it's
Okay.
better to have no cars on the road there, I think.
All right, so we have the recommendation, and we've discussed it. Is there any action? Motion on this item?
I would move to adopt the recommendation of the Traffic Commission and install no parking signs on Royal Oak as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Do we need to be specific that it's for the entire cul-de-sac with that wording?
Sure. Is that okay? And
Yeah,
motion?
that's my motion for sure.
Okay, any comments from the audience?
This audience member is gonna tell you that's by ordinance, and I'll bring it back.
You'll bring it back, yes. So we're moving to adopt these, and then you'll bring an ordinance. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to adopt these recommendations. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Let's go on to next item. Item 7 is discuss and consider recommendation from the Traffic Commission to install a no U-turn sign, paint an arrow on the street, and add raised buttons at the median of Orchard Creek Drive and Sandalwood. Sabrina.
Traffic's been hot.
Citizen has made a complaint that when traffic is on OCD headed down towards Brazosport, that at times they try to make that U-turn right there, and they can't. So either they are backing up and interfering with traffic trying to come on, or they get foolish, and you're aware that on Sandalwood, there's a little bit of a median right there, so it's a divided street, and they go down the wrong way. So he has requested that we help him out with this issue. He says he's witnessed several times, he lives right there at Zinnia, and he has witnessed several times where the cars have come down the wrong way, or they've made the traffic backing up and all this. So Lieutenant, I believe, Cromies presented this at traffic and had a discussion about potential things that we could do, which Mr. Rodis wishes to.
Well, I was going to
Go
say,
ahead.
I was going to say, what I thought was the best view that I saw at traffic is not being presented here. The problem stems from the Kroger parking lot has an outlet
Right.
that's back this way and up. People go out that outlet and then they realize, oh, I'm going to go the wrong way, because you can't go left out of that outlet. You got to go right. And so they get stuck. So this happens more than you would think it happens if you were just driving down because of the structure of the design of the parking lot. If they were to drive down, it's like I do now because I've done this before. If they're to drive down now to this light, then you could just make the left no problem. But people don't always do that, either their first time or they forget or whatever else. So I do think it's a bigger problem than the pictures show. But
So why are you shopping at Kroger instead of H-E-B?
sometimes I end up over there, number one. Number two, they sell things at that Kroger they don't have at H-E-B. But I hear you.
Sure.
So the recommendation, you know, a no entry, a U-turn sign, and then they were discussing either painting or putting the buttons here.
What if, I know whenever I was talking with Desto about it, is that we don't normally put buttons for a trail like this, or chicken trail, whatever they call it, is that we usually do it if there's double lanes over here allowing a left-hand turn, like we do at Dixie onto Orchard Creek Drive. So, you know, that would be a unique situation doing that way. My question would be is what if we do like TxDOT does now that they had to do on every entry ramp, is put a wrong way sign either there or here. So whenever people turn, they see that they're heading in the wrong way into that intersection. It's just a suggestion.
We talked about a lot of different things. There are lots of options thrown around. But there was a concern that if you put a do not enter sign on this side, people are going to confuse it when they're trying to go down the correct direction.
I would prefer to put
Put it
them
further
back
down.
here
Other side.
at this location, further on back, because one, I don't want them interfering with any kind of view when you're trying to come
Right.
out. So I would prefer it to be here.
I think it'd be more appropriate here.
I would have, and to be quite honest, I would put one here and I would put one over here on the side as well.
Yeah, so it doesn't.
We've done that on Plantation, where you were coming out of, like Walnut and those. We had some issues where people were, new drivers, I guess, were turning too short. They weren't going across and then coming down. So when we've put those there, and as far as I'm aware, that has solved the issue that they were having over there.
Okay. One question I had about that and was discussed at the meeting was, if it's deep into here, then by the time you see it, you've already plugged this up, and then you're really going to be, and if here, are you
Again, hopefully
going to be
you're,
looking?
yeah, hopefully you're looking down the road and you'll see it as you turn in, but that's,
Yeah.
But you know, we can
The
do all
problem,
this, but
again, the
people will still
U-turn
return.
too, like
well, the U-turn.
The
is
U-turn is
something- the U-turn, I have no problem with doing, is not allowing a U-turn there. But people are still gonna do it. They're gonna break the law. I mean, they're gonna do a UE. Even
Mr.
if we put a
Broadus has
sign up
already
there.
said he does it all the time.
Yeah.
no,
Broadus
no,
does it
no,
all
no,
the
no,
time.
no.
See how he goes?
But he's a lawyer.
I made that mistake one time
But,
and learned from it.
I mean, there's no other way to physically do it, because you can't move this out any further, because then you start impeding traffic and stuff, and,
It was designed by reason for people to force to go to H-E-B.
you know. And I guess the other question I would have at the Kroger exit is, I don't know what's at that exit, if it says one way or whatever, but maybe we might be able to address some of this by, at that exit out of Kroger, is improve whatever
you bring me
signage
the-
is there.
Can you
So
get
that
a
people know that,
top-down view?
you know, well, he's
that
going to
what-
pull a map up.
Yeah. Because I'm not remembering, Joe. Is it just curbed there, or is it? I'm trying to remember why you.
I don't think there's
I'm pretty sure you have to go
You can't
right.
go across because I think it has,
Yeah, it has curbing where you
the
can't go
curbing and stuff
across.
there, but I
we go.
don't think there's signage that I remember.
Yeah,
Because
so
it's
this right
really
here,
not a
right there.
one-way. I mean, you can go
It's right
down here
here.
and then once you get to the
Because
other zones,
Because
Well,
now
it's-
I go
it's
down
one
here.
way here.
You can go.
yeah.
So
You can only turn right.
You can only
Right,
turn
but-
right.
Yeah, but if you put a sign here saying, right there, that no left turn, that people won't even enter that lane
Yeah.
knowing that they can't turn left.
Yeah, I think your signage would have to be here, informing people, if you pull up this way,
You can't make.
you're not gonna be able to take a right. So, you know, some people may be pulling up here not knowing and realize, God, I can't turn left, so I gotta turn right, and that's what gets them into this mess here. So
Yeah.
if we work with Kroger to see if we can get some extra signage here that says, you know, right turn only, exit.
Can you go back to the other picture that we were looking at? So on the ground right here, can you just not paint "Do Not Enter" in big letters?
I don't think that meets the uniform traffic code to be.
Yeah, and I don't know that, so I don't know.
I can look into that.
Supplement the signs, I mean, I really,
And-
I see people paying attention to the paint.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
but-
that would solve the problem that
I thought
Sabrina
I
was
told
talking
that
about.
You can't do that, it has to be a uniform traffic code,
Well, you
because
can do the sign and paint. You can do both.
we can't put on the road, because I was told.
I can
by-
look into that, Mr.
Because
Sontanya.
I was, have the issue about people pulling out from any way onto OCD and blocking the lane, to put a sign there that says, do not block the intersection. And I was told you can't put that there because,
Because it's a stop sign.
That's right.
You can put it
Right.
there. This is do not enter, so it's different.
but it, do not enter going the wrong way.
That's right, so don't do that.
Okay, maybe you can.
I
Yeah,
don't
Mr.
know.
Broad.
I'm just saying that would alleviate the problem of
We'll check.
somebody
Yeah.
I don't have it.
being confused and
So
right
can
there.
we, right now,
Simplify it,
what we're
right?
talking about is that, what we would go back and Sabrina could check into is if we can paint
Do not enter.
here, the feasibility of putting
2 signs.
2 signs wrong way. And then talk with Kroger to see if there might be a chance to improve the signage there, like we're talking about. And if you need me to talk to them, I'll talk to them.
Okay.
And then also we're talking, and so we got those actions, I think is what we're talking about. The question we could achieve here is making this a no U-turn sign up here, wherever,
Yeah, you would put it off of.
put it over here.
Yeah.
So. Anything else? And do you want to just give that direction to Sabrina and staff and let them come back?
Come back with a little something more fine-tuned, maybe?
We
Okay.
can't put the other ones, and if council's agreeable to the no U-turn, we'll have to come back with an ordinance for
Right.
that.
Okay.
Is it, are we all okay with the, I mean, by consensus,
I am.
with no
Yes.
U-turn?
Okay, so we're doing the no U-turn. All right.
For sure,
Okay.
yeah. Is that the only thing that requires an ordinance, is a no U-turn?
Do not enter, you're already not allowed to enter there, so that doesn't need an ordinance.
All right, so you'll bring out an ordinance back that allows us to do the no U-turn signage, and then we'll have recommendations back on the,
Okay.
our great suggestions.
Okay.
Yeah, for the signs, we can put up.
Signs we can do.
We
That's
can,
not
we
an
can
issue.
do the signs immediately. We just have to find out what latitude that we have for the pavement marking. But I'm gonna be like Sherry. I think we have latitude. As long as you put the signs up, then you probably can pave the, do
But to
pavement
me,
markings.
you're facing the wrong way. People coming in will see their sign says, do not enter. It's written backwards. It's gonna be confusing. You know, because a lot of times people paint stuff backwards for you to read, and it has to be readable from the car, from the distance. Once you're on top of it, you're not
Yeah, I
gonna be able to
understand.
read it.
I understand what you're saying.
So it's, to me, that's just not gonna work
On the pavement marking.
on the pavement.
Yeah, because what'll happen is this driver may think, I'm going the wrong way.
Yeah.
And they're going the right way.
So we could drive, I mean, so we could easily.
Because the lettering is
I'm
backwards.
thinking these people
It's
shouldn't be
upside down.
driving.
Be like my
Since
father
we
used to say, I'm only
since
going
we
one way,
can
so.
put the signage up, we can try that and see how it works and monitor.
So do you need us to approve signage? The
I
signage
need-
doesn't require an ordinance.
I can put the do not enter up without anything, but if I can't put the no U-turn up until you guys
Yes.
have modified and the ordinance.
Okay.
But I can,
And you may want to
Get John
put a
working.
no U-turn on the light as well as also on the side, on the post here, because some people will not look. But if it's
Yeah, shut Modesto.
right here, or, you know, a pole saying no U-turn, because they may not see it up the top light. I don't know.
I'll see what I have as far as
Yeah, it may
space
not
and
be
Better
wide
have
enough.
much space.
where I
May
can
not
put
be.
a pole, if I can put a pole.
Yeah.
If
may
you
not
put a
be
pole
wide.
there, Matt's fender on his big wide pickup truck's gonna hit it every time he does that UE.
Yeah.
It wasn't illegal when I did it.
Matt fixed
And
it
I only
now. He
did it
knows how he's
once.
doing now. He knows to come down here and turn around and
around.
come
No,
on.
I
So
come
he's,
down the Kroger parking lot to this light and
and
make
then
a left.
turn like a sensible person.
Just go out on Loop Road and
All
make
right,
it right.
do you
Okay.
do you want us to do a motion on the signage?
No,
Just consensus.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you very much. Item 8, discuss and consider option for additional inspections in the health department, Modesto.
Well, from the last meeting, staff's had some, more chance to discuss this. And one of the ideas that was proffered by staff to me was look at trying to have a trigger on inspecting those restaurants that were starting to show us not meeting standards, rather than inspect all, I don't know, what's the count that we have on restaurants, David?
At last count, it's about 106.
So we do 2 inspections right now for those 106 restaurants. So rather than do another 2 for the 106, the thought is that if a restaurant then had a failed enclosure or 2, it would trigger an additional inspection or inspections for a quarter or for 6 months or for a year. And then we would monitor them and see if we can get them back into meeting standards. The other idea that was broached today that David brought to me, that we could also expand that and not just a failure. It could be those that are unsatisfactory, or I would say a grade of C. And this year, over the first 6 months or plus, we've had 3 satisfactory. I think, or 3 to 5. And so that could, if you get a satisfactory, that could trigger you also at getting an additional inspection or inspections. If we did something like that, I think that we could absorb that with our current staffing load versus trying to figure out a way to add a position. So we talked about that. I think we want to recommend that. We'd like to try that and see. It could come back, and we could be during the summer, during the budget process, we could be recommending to add an additional inspector, but we were trying to see if we could focus on those that were showing a trend of not meeting, the standards.
So I feel like that we're missing the point. So the point I was trying to make last meeting and the time before was that I'm not concerned about repeat offenders. I'm concerned about the first offenders. If we are not inspecting them but twice a year, and they know when we're going to come to inspect, and if we are going to go inspect them and they are in that worse shape that you have to close them down, the problem existed long before you showed up. And they probably tried to make it better because they're knowing that you're coming.
Do they know you're coming?
Do y'all set up an appointment or
I didn't think you did.
just walk in the door, right?
To address your concerns, we do meet the state standard for inspections, which is twice annually, and that is what most jurisdictions do post and do. Now, that does not mean that we can't go or don't go more often. And no, we do not set appointments with them. Typically, we might do one in the first half of the year and then do one in the second half of the year, but that's not statutory. So long as we do 2 inspections within that 12-month period, we are meeting that state requirement. But again, that could be, we've inspected them in March and then come back in June. But then, obviously, you might have a longer time before that next statutory inspection. That doesn't mean that we might not be in that restaurant at other times for other purposes.
Do they know, say you've got your list of who you're going to inspect this week, do they know you're coming in an hour?
No,
Do they know
ma'am.
you're coming this
They're
week?
not scheduled, they're not posted, they're not prearranged.
So y'all just show up?
Nor is it on any kind of internal calendar, must go on this date to this,
Right.
to this minute.
But say if you inspected them January 15th,
Yes, sir.
so they should be expecting another one in July?
Not necessarily, but that would fit within that twice a year time frame that the state requires.
But to me, some of the restaurants that you have found, the list that you sent, Mr. Modesto today sent out, if you look at the list, some of them are in pretty bad shape. And that's health hazard. And I'm sure they didn't, if you'll agree with me, that they didn't get there in one day or 1 week. It took a while for them to get into that shape.
Well, I think it depends on the circumstances that shut them down. Yes, there's two businesses that were shut down for extended period of times because of a long extended issue with their HVAC, and we had been working with them for a long period of time to get them to repair it, and we finally shut them down to get action to take on it. But I worked in the industry. When I was in college, I worked at flipping burgers. And I know all about the inspections, and we never were notified ahead of time. And the ability to have a good restaurant or pass inspections, it really relied upon what kind of manager you had to be able to keep an eye on and make sure things are being done appropriately. But at the same time, I know that especially if you're sitting in a restaurant that's in a strip center and it's next door to a pet food store or whatever. They could move their inventory around, and you may have a perfect certificate that shows you just been had a trip visited by the the people to take care of roaches and so forth. So terminators and anyway, what you end up doing is that you can have a perfect situation. They move their inventory around, and you can wake up the next morning and your building is full of roaches because it moved from someplace else. So it can happen. Some of that stuff can happen overnight, over a short period of time. The concern I have with going to an automatic 4 inspections of a year. Why 4? What's important about 4? Why not 6? Why not 8? Or whatever. What's the stopping number?
No, I'm not
The deal
suggesting
is
4 or
that
5.
what I'm saying though is that we do have businesses that do a good job, and they come up excellent. They haven't been shut down, and they're operating very well. But you're going to burden them with an additional inspection whenever they're doing a good job. So the people that you need to be addressing are the ones that are not doing a good job, and those are the ones that we identify over time. And that's why this proposal that staff is putting across there is saying is for the bad actors, if you don't do a good job of taking care of your business, we'll come in here and we're going to inspect you on a more frequent basis and help you become a better provider of services to the community.
So I agree with all that, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor, but the only thing I'm asking for is the process be random.
It is random.
No, I would like for it to be more random. That, perhaps like you suggested, the restaurant is doing great, hasn't had any violation in 2 years. They may get inspected just once a year.
I don't think that
No,
meets
they get
state-
inspected 2 times a year.
We
The
have-
state
you
won't
have to
require.
meet- You have to meet.
It has to
state
be 2.
Standard.
So maybe they get inspected twice a year, but the people who are having an issue, they have a random, that they're not gonna come back and check in a month or 2 months, just be a random check.
Well, all the inspections are random. There's no notification. What they will be told is if they are a problem, if we follow this procedure, is if they are a problem business, is that you fall into this category of you're going to have 2 more additional inspections in the next calendar year or whatever period we set. And they don't know when they're going to occur. They know that they're going to get 2 more inspections on top of the additional 2.
And that's fine, as long as we do not publicize, they're gonna have 2 more inspections, we're gonna have more inspections, period. That's all I'm asking for.
But we have to say how many inspections we're going to do because we have to budget it. So we know that if we're going to go over there and we're going to do more inspections, we need to have an idea of what we're going to do, if it's 2 or 4 more inspections. That's all. That's one of the reasons why I see that you're going to define how many you're going to do, additional inspections.
If I can interject, whatever the council decides that staff is going to do or gives direction to the city manager to implement a policy, that policy must state what that procedure is going to be,
Right.
so that it doesn't come down to you're picking on me,
Right.
or I'm being unfairly treated. So whether or not it's 1 additional inspection within a certain time frame for a failed or satisfactory score, or it goes to something other than that, we have to be able to write a policy based upon that. Just using a blanket more inspections is not something that we could enforce, or something that the courts would substantiate or
You're
allow
not
us to
picking on it.
do.
Every time I come in your restaurant, you're failing the inspection. That's not picking on you.
No, I agree. I mean,
So,
there
I
are
mean-
some people that will require some additional attention.
But if you-
A lot of times when we go back into restaurants, it's because we have complaints, either from customers or more often than not from employees. So when we investigate every complaint, regardless of how it's the method in which it was brought to our attention, or whether or not we believe it to be credible, we still investigate. As an example, today I went to a local retailer because a customer was concerned about the quality of the bagged spinach. And I explained to the customer, and also talked to the manager, they don't bag that spinach on site. But the spinach was spoiling faster than this gentleman thought it should. So even though it's not something the local establishment can do anything about, and it could very well have been that customer's own handling of the product once they had it in their control, we do address everything, regardless of how it's brought to us, which is why you'll see some establishments are visited more than others. And sometimes it could be just a disgruntled employee making disparaging remarks on an open public Facebook forum. We still do that investigation. So whatever council decides to do, we'll draft up a policy to make sure that we can address the concern from council, that we can treat the restaurants equitably, and that we can make sure that the citizens can eat and dine in healthy establishments. As is, we might go out and identify something, and we'll just use the example of roaches. It might not even be because of the quality of the establishment, that roach could have been introduced, or roaches could have been introduced on products from vendors or even employees bringing them on site. So, but once again, we do that investigation. We make sure that the restaurant is meeting those minimum standards, and then we move forward from there.
There just has to be a consistent process based on the performance.
Right.
Yeah, I think the hesitancy of staff would be, you would have to give us, or we'd have to tell the restaurants if they had a failed inspection or inspections that they could inspect, a minimum of, 2 more inspections or stuff. Because what we wouldn't want is you have a restaurant that failed, 2 restaurants that fail, and we inspect one 8 times and another one 4 times. Then they could say, well, wait a minute, you are picking on me, and we wouldn't want that.
Well, I'm not asking for that. I mean, if you come in and inspect me, if I failed inspection 2 months ago, you come back and I'm passing, then you wouldn't be back to your regular frequency. But if I failed again, you'll be back. So it's not a case to me of picking on. I mean, that's just, to me, it doesn't hold water. I mean, if you are squeaky clean, you're not going to get an inspection. My only thing is, I know we're talking about potatoes and potatoes, so let's just move forward, try this, and see how it works out.
It sounds like the proposal, Mr. Singhania, is addressing your concern.
I believe so, but my only concern is if they know when you're coming back, if you're gonna, and if that's not the case, then let's move
Yeah,
forward.
no inspection is ever scheduled unless we say you're in violation of these, and we will be back within 10 days to verify these things have been completed.
But if you say coming back in 2 months, then they are basically have a date in mind that when you're coming back.
Yes, sir.
So they can be rotten from day till 2 weeks before that you're gonna come back in 2 months and clean it up and be good to go. Some people are good businessmen, good restaurants, some are not. And now, let's try that and see what happens.
So you
We'll,
want to bring it back
we'll
up?
formulate something in writing and then bring it back to council so you can see what we're doing. And again, this is not an ordinance change, it's really kind of a
Policy, a
kind of
procedure.
a policy that will guide us.
Okay.
And it's mostly not restaurant, rephrase that. Help is hard to find right now, so people find people who are not as motivated to work, and we have issues, so.
Okay, thank you. We have item 9 is authorize city manager to execute a contract with Lee Engineering for professional engineering services for the replacement of existing pool dehumidification equipment at the rec center in the amount not to exceed $45,440. And this is budgeted for?
Yes, sir.
Yes, through the half-cent sales tax.
Okay. Robin, hello.
Yes, hello.
Tell us what you know about this.
We're just trying to get the engineering to start developing the plans and the specifications. So the system's not doing great, and we want to be prepared. And hopefully, when it comes down to it next year, it might be something we'll be budgeting for. But it's the dehumidification for the pool, the natatorium that kind of, helps with the air quality and all of that stuff.
So is it a true dehumidifier or is it an HVAC system?
It's a dehumidifier,
Okay.
yes.
Because AC is
Right.
dehumidifies also. But-
Yeah,
so
yeah,
this
no,
is-
this is an HVAC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Robin, once we get them secured and started, when do you think that they would have the plans ready?
When I talked to him, he said it would be he could probably get them ready within 4 to 6 weeks. So
Okay.
I'm hoping and go from there. I'm still, if something ever happened, those systems are still.
So this is just the engineering.
This is
isn't-
just
It is.
the
We just-
engineering.
We weren't able
yeah.
to get it into the budget for this year, so, but we could get in, the engineering.
Right.
The one thing that we may come back with is that the lead time on equipment right now
Oh, yeah,
is
it's
a year
years.
plus. We may, if after the beginning of the year, look at it, if the half cent is doing well, we may come back with an amendment to go out and go out for bid and maybe explore a down payment and
Right.
ordering, because
Get the parts coming.
I
Yeah.
don't see anything coming in within 6 months at all, even if we placed an order
Yeah.
today. Generators are taking a year.
Yeah, any big equipment like that.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Okay. All right, so any other questions, council? All right, I'll take a motion on this item.
Move for approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Approved purchase of criminal investigation replacement vehicle through Rockdale Country Ford under buy board contract 601-19 in the amount not to exceed $37,000. Hello. What kind of vehicle is this?
It's going to be a Ford Explorer, just
Explorer.
like Lieutenant Langford drives right now. It's replacing a Caprice, an old vehicle that we had. It's, obviously, it was budgeted for, and it's under buyback price.
Okay. Anybody have a question?
Does this price include it being outfitted with the equipment that you need?
I believe they put the bid in for all that equipment, but of course, the CID equipment vehicle does not have all the lights and stuff like a patrol vehicle. It'll probably just have a smaller light set.
All right, I'll take a motion on this item.
Move for approval.
A motion to move, to purchase, yes.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. We have approved purchase of computer storage hardware, installation and configuration for the police department on contract number HCDE 18056KD47 in the amount not to exceed $78,000. Tom, how are you?
You're not
I'm
Pam.
just fine. How's
You're
it
not
doing?
Pam, you
No,
cut
I'm
your
not
hair.
Pam. Yes. No, nowhere near that
Pam right
pretty.
here.
Nowhere near that pretty.
Tell us about this.
This is for the virtualization infrastructure at the police department. It houses most of our servers. Put in around 2014, 2015 timeframe. We're beginning to see some storage failures. Different things are happening. It's not quite as resilient as it was. We're looking at implementing newer technology. The city, their infrastructure implemented a different type of technology a while back in 2017. This will be in line with them, so it's proven technology. It's good. It's easy to work with. Doesn't require a lot of much training as the existing infrastructure. It was budgeted for, not CIP, but just in equipment replacement.
Okay. So this doesn't give us any kind of extra security other than just we won't fail, we won't break, or,
Right, basically, we're just trying to, the equipment's aging out. It's in that, sitting in that 7-year range, and that's kind of when you start looking for, and we're beginning to see quite a few failures. We're
Yeah.
not able to fail over the way we want to, but as far as actually security, it's not. It's just more of a redundancy effect that we deal with.
okay? Any other questions on council, from council?
No.
Okay, I'll take a motion on this.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of computer storage hardware installation configuration for the police department on contract number HCDE 18056KD47 in an amount not to exceed $78,000.
I have a motion, I'm looking for a second.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Award contract to North Parking Place canopy demolition and facade restoration to the lower bidder, RM Commercial, in the amount not to exceed $279,000. Sal.
This is one of those projects that came up. It hadn't been an item for discussion during the original design, but we knew that we were wanting to get rid of those those canopies there, primarily because of the history it had in the past of falling down. And since we're going to do what we're going to be doing is a significant demolition of the understory for those canopies, the sidewalk, and the go back again with another type of mezzanine sidewalk, pedestrian walk. We thought it was, it was a proper time to try to remove that thing, and it went through a whole process between our city manager and our assistant city manager with those people about removing those canopies. They all agreed to. Finally, to be demolished there, and then came up the questions concerning how do we go back and sort of button that up without creating any moisture or weather-proofing those particular items that were going to be removed. Finally, it was done. We put out a project out there. Originally, we had set aside $315,000 as a cost estimate. It ended up with those three different bidders there. Two of them are in the business of building construction. Those first two, RMA Commercial, Noble Construction, HTI, got in there not really knowing what it was that they were getting into, but at least they had enough sense to put in a high price for security protection, their security protection. RMA Commercial is the low bidder. They're from Houston. We are familiar, or at least we haven't done any particular direct dealings with them, but we know of a project that we're involved in, which is the what we call the Plantation Village Shopping Center, where La Madeleine was supposed to be coming in and is still in the works. They came in there and did that significant retrofit of the buildings.
They're across from Aldi?
Across from Aldi's, correct. So we know that that's, they do good work as far as we're concerned, just judging by the finished product. So we are recommending that, and it's $279, which is still under the $315,000 estimate. So we are recommending that it be given to them, awarded to them, so that we can begin this particular project. It is a 60-day calendar days. The good thing about it is we sort of spaced it in a way that since we were going to be starting the actual construction work on the downtown project starting at the start of the year, January sometime, we thought we had enough chance for them to start, that be able to prepare and either move at the same time at the start of the year if they wanted to, or make any type of preparations prior to that, not to interfere with the Christmas traffic, but at least they give it a chance for them to start. I don't think there's going to be any conflict because the actual street construction and everything is going to start at the that way phase, and this being on the last phase, which is phase number 6 of the project. So there shouldn't be any problem with them conflicting with each other.
Okay. What kind of reassurance do we have of, like Councilman Sanjana has asked in the past, is, once we go in and resurface the front of their building, is who's responsible for if there's a leak down the road? Is it the construction company, or is it the city, or is it at some point there's a sign off saying everything's good?
Well, it would fall within the certain with a certain amount of time, the 1 year, which is typical contract.
Okay.
It'd be the contractor's fault to weatherproof that. Beyond that, then it's, I'm afraid it falls on us as the responsible party. Now, even that was explained to the business owners, but that doesn't usually equate to a fair.
So when I asked that question a
full
while
proof.
back, I was told that it would never be city's responsibility.
Well, I mean, that's our intention, our intent, yeah, but that doesn't stop them from wanting to see the city, no matter what.
So this canopy belongs to the city, or they belong
The city, the canopy doesn't belong to the city. The property is the city's property. This canopy was installed, God only knows when, by the different business owners during the year, through the years. So but you can't really pinpoint whose canopy that
And
was.
that's fine, but I think we need a hold harmless agreement from the current owners that since it's their property and we're removing something that they installed or their predecessors installed, that if we remove, we're doing them a favor. So we don't want them coming back to us and saying, hey, my building leaks and we need to come and fix it. And I thought that's what we agreed on.
We talked about it.
We
Yeah.
talked about it so much, I thought that we had done that.
So I just want to make sure that was done because
Okay, I'm not privy to what actual documents were
We
exchanged.
haven't secured anything with any of the business owners. I know we discussed it.
Okay,
I think we need to do that though before we authorize this.
I just,
The only saving grace is that there is only, I believe, 2 different property owners involved in this particular block.
Right.
So that limits, and it can be covered that way.
But again, at the end of the day, we're going to require it to be removed. And either they remove it or they allow us to remove it and hold us not accountable after a certain period of time, I guess.
So the first year will be contractor responsibility.
Yeah, the first year will be the
13-month bond,
contract, is
it's gonna
correct.
go to the
Beyond that
business
one,
owner.
yes, the contract goes out.
Okay. I mean, we could award this bid now and still have that stipulation, but it's whatever you guys, what council wants to do tonight. If we want to hold off on this, or
I would personally hold off because I thought we had decided before.
does that create a problem with the contractor?
No, I don't believe so. I think
So
we
how
still
many
have,
days do we have to award the bid?
excuse me?
How many days do we have?
We have
to award?
30 days to give,
So we
to,
have enough time to bring it to the next council meeting?
yes.
So within that time period, could we go ahead and secure the documentation from the business owner with their agreement?
Yes.
We can,
We can,
Assuming they
we
agree.
can approach them and require
if
that they
if they'll
do that.
agree.
Well,
They
if they
don't
don't
agree,
agree,
they can
then we
remove
give them
themselves.
dates when it's got to be down.
We can give them so many days to take it down.
I think it would be an easy decision if I was a business owner.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we'll bring that back. All right, number 13, approve interlocal agreement with Brazosport Independent School District for 2 bus drivers to transport patrons from the Recreation Center to City Hall for the Festival of Lights. Brian's going to talk to it. Okay?
Yes, basically what happened when I came to you earlier was asking for the center parking on Circleway to be taken out. At that time, we had that discussion. We believed that the carnival would not be here. And one of the ideas was that parking overflow from that area could go to the Civic Center area. However, since Mallory's actually got us a carnival now, we try to mitigate that issue and find another solution. And so the solution we came up with was to use the rec center and McLean Park area as a bus stop / parking ride. And so we've reached out to BISD to ask if they would assist us with that, and they've agreed to. And so basically, they've asked us to pay for the drivers only, and that they were going to give us the buses and the fuel and all of that. And so this agreement here is basically to facilitate that agreement so we can have those 2 buses. And what we've talked about getting is 2 ADA buses and 2, a driver and a helper. That way they can assist and basically have 2 buses rolling at the same time from noon until midnight. And the reason why the time frame is because obviously the carnival goes until 11. So we want to make sure if somebody comes in to see the parade, and then they decide after the parade to go to the carnival, they have a way back to their vehicle. Now, we obviously don't know what time people are going to show up, so we're trying to cover that time frame from noon to midnight.
Okay.
So they pick up at the rec center. Where are they dropping off at?
Well, what we discussed, I've actually got with Robin and also Ashley Charles here, and she's going to try to help me get it all figured out. We've talked about 2 locations at the rec center. One is actually coming in right there once you turn left into the rec center, that parking area right there, or as Robin suggested, in front of the main entrances. They're going to close at noon anyway, and that would be a covered parking area, or a parking area for them to sit while they wait for the bus. And then, of course, we're going to drop them off here at the police department, just on the northeast corner from the City Hall and the police department.
and just mark off a few lanes or parking spaces so that nobody will park there. And we've got signs being made right now for the festival bus stop. So we'd have a stop here, and basically what would happen, people would load up on the bus and it'd be rotating. So there'd always be a bus going, and Modesto and I talked about it, and they could make those rounds every 15 minutes. So no one would be waiting very long, and both buses would be ADA compliant, so if they had a wheelchair, they wouldn't be waiting that long.
Right.
Good idea.
Sounds great. Any other questions? All right, I'll take a motion on this approval and interlocal agreement.
Move for approval of interlocal agreement with BISD for 2 bus drivers to transport patrons from rec center to the city hall for the Festival of Lights.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Item 14 is city manager update.
We really don't have any update. We're still waiting on TCQ. They're mulling over our request to mulch and spread at the landfill. We're kind of in a holding pattern. Sabrina informed me, right now we can't even, grind it without a plan of action of where it will go. So we're waiting on that. If they don't, then we still have another, submittal to them, or we broached the subject with them on burning it at the chipping site, or if they'll require us to move it off-site and burn it. So we're hoping that they allow us to spread it. And
So
we
everybody-
have asked for an extension, a 60-day extension.
As far as holding the
For
term.
holding it, our permit ends December 12th. So
And didn't they ask you why you need an extension?
They did, I think.
Because of you.
Modesto's correct. I have applied for an extension. I have spoken with TCEQ in regards to that. I'm also speaking with a different division of TCEQ because nobody can talk to each other up there. This gentleman, Mr. Arthur Denny, is attempting to get me permission to go ahead and grind in place. That's what we specified as our preferred method of doing that. We did speak today about either grinding in place or burning, or what our options were, and what the big thing is, which is the transporting of everything. So he was going to contact the other group that I was speaking with and try to get them to go ahead and, 1, push my extension through, and 2, work with him to give me a viable solution that we could do down here that would not involve horrendous amounts of money to try to get rid of this much mulch. So that's where we're standing at this point in time.
So everybody get your trailer and go get your couple of loads of mulch.
Everybody come get as much mulch as you want. If you know people that want mulch outside the city, come get it. Everybody can come get as much mulch as they possibly want. I have more mulch than you could even dream about.
Then you can shake a stick at.
Then you could, I have a ton of the first grind, and I have more of the second grind. I don't have more second grind, so that's a little bit, but come get all of that, come get all of that first grind. It makes great driveway stuff or anything that you need for that, Not driveways for here, not here in the city, but like if any of you guys are like
That's not on the
rural,
ordinance.
if any of you have farms and such things, or any kind of friends that have that kind of stuff, it's fantastic.
You've got a corral or something like that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Well, that might be an option. I mean, we might be able to contact some of these, ag groups and extension groups and say,
Ag extensions.
yeah, and just say, hey, we got a bunch of stuff. I'm sure y'all are reaching
Yeah,
out.
the same hurdle that everybody has is what we have. It's
It's
the
getting it
shipping
there.
cost.
Getting it there, and
Well, they come get it. I mean, it's free to come get it. I know.
that's the big enough trucks to make it worth your while, really, to come. The other thing, you were talking about some of the farmings and stuff like that. We have been reaching out to different organizations to say, hey, you're a chicken farmer, you want to do it out here because chicken manure is, of course, very hot. Let's try to do something there. I'm not getting anybody to bite. So I have one more person that I'm going to try to contact tomorrow to see. I do have a town that is looking to take some of it, but again, it's the transportation issue. So I've researched some trucking options for them and to see if they
Yeah,
can.
the
maybe
only
get-
interest we've had is someone who makes pellets for burning, for
Stoves.
wood stoves, but they're looking for a more permanent relationship because I think they have to make a sizable equipment investment.
We'll always have hurricanes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. All right. So we jump into construction updates. It hadn't been raining, so we probably got
A lot
whole
of
bunch
work
stuff
going
to-
on at the,
It's been raining, so we have, no, first of all, the
Shop.
project on Walnut Street Crossing is about ready to complete.
The bridge.
The bridge, yes. There's only one sidewalk that's left to be built, and once it does that one, we're ready to buy. It's come out to be a very, very nice project. The contractor really put out the effort, and then they're already back. I mean, as far as their time, they haven't exceeded the time because of all the weather extensions there, but it's really eating into their profit margin. But they're fine. They want to get that finished. We are also starting the job. As a matter of fact, you may have already seen some activity over there at the extension of Azalea at Circle Way to that property, to that commercial property, even though it's going to stop right at the Parkway line. This is being done by Soil Construction, and they are already removed all the concrete, and they will be starting the liming process on the subgrade shortly, sometime before the end of the week. And so they are moving on that particular project and trying to get it out as fast as they can. We have also completed the spot repair pavement at Oyster Creek Drive. Were able to drive through that today.
It looks very nice.
Very
Yeah,
good
it looks
job.
very nice.
It's very smooth and
Yeah, it's
looks
very
good.
smooth, you can transition without any problem there. That was also done by HTI, so that is another project that we've completed. We've completed all the ramps have been completed now, and also we added some ramps that the city manager wanted to include in the Creekside neighborhood or in the old Oyster Bed neighborhood. And those 4 ramps are already into. The repair job, the emergency repair job at the fire station number 2 has been completed. We're still looking at some of the video after the fact to try to determine what it is our next step. But the line is in. They were able to get in there without any well pointing, as we were first of all concerned about. But we found a little situation that we need to discuss ourselves whether or not to proceed with anything more.
So was the driveway also repaired, or is that still
No, the
coming?
driveway's still not repaired yet. Yeah, that would come after the fact. We'll go back in there and make
Okay.
that repair. But we need to just be content with the product. They did what they were supposed to. There wasn't any problem there whatsoever.
On the OCD patch, out of that 200,000 we had allocated for panel replacement, do we have any, are we finished with that?
Yeah, we're finished with that project, correct.
This was the last one.
Correct.
Okay.
Did a good job on Banyan also.
Yes, no, they did very good jobs.
So now our next one is to move into the $1 million that we just approved tonight.
Okay.
So I'll get that done next week.
As a
That's
matter of fact, I already have it now.
Velasco Drainage District is working on the Shy Pond outflow.
On their outfall, on their portion of the outfall, they're at the
So is
100
that after the valves or before the valves?
from the valves to the creek.
Okay, so in between is ours, which is
900,
900
950 linear feet.
At $150 a linear
150,
foot.
$1,500 a linear foot.
I'm sorry,
Missing a zero.
$1,500
So are you-
a linear foot.
Are you still thinking of just
What?
replacing one
That's the only, yes.
and leaving the one? We're going to fix the worst.
Yeah, we're gonna fix the worst.
That's all
What
we can
we
afford, right?
perceive to be the worst after reviewing the
I mean,
video.
right now, we have 850,000 allotted for that.
It's still not
We'd
enough.
have to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're doing this cure in place in that section, or we're gonna replace the pipe?
We are looking at all options
So you
right
haven't-
now. We looked at open
You haven't
cut.
decided how to go spend
But,
$800
yeah,
something.
we looked at open cut as being thing, but we're talking about a very deep line under very waterlogged conditions. Becomes a nightmare. So,
Would they have to vacuum that dirt before they, put the,
well, yeah, well pointed would be the way to do this thing, but we would have to drain the creek itself because, that is a sort of an artesian type of condition right through there, yeah.
artesian well?
Yeah, an artesian well.
All right. Anything else?
That'll be it.
Any other questions for Sal?
Nope.
All right. All right, we have, next is items of community interest. We'll start with Rhonda.
Not anything for me?
Buster?
Well, we got the parade Saturday night and the carnival and all associated with it this Saturday.
Yep. Renee?
Just a couple items. The city helped residents install those children at play or neighborhood business signs around town, and they have mostly all faded away, and they look like pretty eyesore. I was wondering if we can just remove them or have them replaced. The examples are on Dogwood. As you come off of Yopon, run to Dogwood, you see 'em first right there. There's one right there, the one on the other side, a couple other ones that neighborhood watch and neighborhood children at play. So they just look tacky, so if we're going to, the residents want, they had to pay to buy the signs, and we
Yeah,
installed them.
the citizen on those request those, and we put them up, but they pay for the sign,
Right.
so.
So we don't want to just take them down because they paid for the signs, but
I
perhaps,
don't know. Gosh, that's a good question. We'll have to talk, I don't know if we keep a record of the request unless it's, I don't have an answer to that. It could be kind of.
That's it.
Okay, okay.
That's it? Matt?
Just a big thanks, I guess, to everybody. There was a lot of Veterans Day festivities happened not too long ago, and lots of different events and lots of different places, put on by lots of different people, and they all went off very well without a hitch. And
You know
thank
when
you
Lake
and
Jackson's gonna
congratulations.
have the parade responsibility?
On the rotation,
Is it by alphabetical order, or? Don't know.
don't know.
See who passes the baton.
The big
The
parade.
rotates through different cities. Instead of every city doing their own, it rotates through different cities. So that's why Freeport had the parade this
This
year.
year, yeah.
Veterans?
Yeah, Veterans Day parade, yeah. So I don't, that's just, so we'll have to find,
Jones Creek.
Jones Creek?
That's gonna be my argument.
That won't take long.
Yeah, it's about 3 trucks, yeah, 3 vehicles. Okay, all right, is that it, Matt?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, real quick on me, I had the opportunity, I had several things I was asked to do during Veterans Day, which I was really appreciative of and grateful to be able to do. I went to one of the nursing homes here. They asked me to hand out certificates to the vets that were homed there, and so I handed out. Ended up being 12 certificates from the city recognizing them for their service to our country. The thing that was interesting for me was even being a Boy Scout and knowing about all the flag ceremonies and stuff, we had American Legion from Brazoria came in to do a flag ceremony, and part of it was they explained, they talked about our flag, but then they talked about the ceremony and behind the way you fold the flag, and at each fold has a specific reason. And I had forgotten that from Boy Scouts, and so they were going through that. And it was just, it just kind of tears at you because I know there's a lot of people that don't know the history and the reasons why there's 13 folds and so forth. So it was really great, and I really enjoyed it. And I told them that, again, anytime they want us to do anything like that, be it me or anybody from council, to give me a call on it and give us a call. But it was great. I really appreciate it. That's all I got. Got anything?
No, just if you notice, just talking about the Veterans Day and the parade, the Lions Club did a great job of putting the flags out for us.
Right.
Looked great the whole week.
It
Yeah,
looked very nice.
Yeah, they were taking them down today at 5:30. So, all right, okay.